Somebody sent me a video to watch the other day, and I admit I get so many emails, I don't always get a chance to look at everything, and certainly with the videos and things. But the title and really the description of this video intrigued me. Not enough to actually watch the video because I didn't have time, but the description got me thinking about things. The video was about apparently a guy who's going around. It may be an old video, I don't know, maybe in a television program, or it may be in a YouTube channel, I can't really say. But the idea was the chap in this was going around asking people why they commute to work every day, why they commit themselves to 1 or 2 hours traveling, whether it be in a car or on a train or even on an aeroplane, I suppose, or by bus or walk or whatever it is, 1 or 2 hours to their place of work, then spend however long they are at that place of work, maybe 8 or 10 hours, whatever it is, and then the same journey on the way back. Why do the people do that? And you think to yourself, well, Richard, that's bloody obvious, isn't it? They're doing that because they need the money, and the job is a sort of job they're qualified for, and it just so happens that it's further away from their house, an hour or 2 hours, and they have to do that. And they've decided on that job because they want to better themselves. They need the money. And that job is one that is providing that need. And I think, yes, I suppose that's true, isn't it? That's true. People are looking around and going, well, maybe the dream job, or a job that I can tolerate, or a job that is going to bring in the sufficient funds is there. And so they do that commute, and off they go, trundling along every day. And I think to myself, but that's fascinating, isn't it? That people are giving over their time in order to get some money to supposedly better their lives. And it's interesting too that, of course, they're making that trade-off. Now, the thing about money is, of course, that you could get it in perhaps a different way, and you may invest in something and get some money back or whatever, but you never get your time back. Those 2 hours that you commute to your place of work, and then those 2 hours that you commute back, that's gone. That's a resource that you cannot invest somewhere else and get it back. You might get money back to spend later on, but you never get the time back. And we all know that we're on a sort of a ticking clock, if you like. Now, there are those that are going to say, yes, but Richard, you never really die, and you leave this mortal coil and go on, and it doesn't really matter. And maybe that's true, and that's great. But it may be that whilst you're on this plane, this earth, however you want to describe this planet, or whatever it is that we're on, you may think, well, I'm giving away so much of that time in order to earn this money to pay what? To pay bills, to buy things, to buy trinkets, to buy expensive goods, just to keep a roof over my head, to pay the blooming council tax and all of that. And supposedly for what? A better life. This is what they say. I'm doing it to have a better life. And maybe it's a sacrifice. You're doing it so that your children and your wife or your husband can have that better life, or that you can afford to pay for medical care, or this, that and the other, whatever it is. And that, of course, is very laudable, and it is a sacrifice because you're giving away your time, and you're doing it, and the others are benefiting from it. But what is this better life? That's the thing that I think often we've forgotten, that we've been confused about. What is this better life? In many ways, we're told what a better life is as soon as you put that box on in the corner, the television, or even the internet now. You go on and you watch something. Adverts are telling you what that better life is. Buy this product, have this, do your kitchen in this style, and you'll be happy. Eat these types of foods, and you'll be happy. It will give you this better life. Dress in this way, follow this route, and you will have a better life. But it's all about separating you from your money, the money that you've just had to go and earn, and the cycle goes on, the hamster wheel. We know all this, everybody understands this, and we get drawn into it. Oh, I must have that object, that fancy car, that big house, that swimming pool, this, that and the other. Or I need all of these just to stand still. And is that really a better life? When you look at yourself some 40 years down the line, having worked and commuted and handed over all that time to somebody else, and you say, well, I've only got a few years left now, I'm a bit decrepit, I can't run as fast as I could, I can't necessarily do the things that I would like to have done when I was younger because I've had to earn all that money. What is a better life? And the thing is, at the moment, where we are with the corporations that are pretending to be your friends, you know, the council that is just a business there to extract money from you with their council tax and their following of the government line with the net zero and the surveillance and the 5G towers that are popping up everywhere. And the government in and of themselves, who are another business registered on Dun and Bradstreet, a big conglomerate that is really there to extract, of course, more money, to keep you on that hamster wheel of commuting to wherever your work is and keeping your vibrations down. If we are to build a better life and have a new earth, a new world, a new way of doing things, because the old system, as we have so blatantly seen, is broken. If we are to do that, we really have to evaluate what is a better life. Is a better life, as I tend to think, that life before the corporations got out of hand, a life in which people lived together in a community, knew each other, helped one another, supported one another. They bought their products from a local environment. People had crafts. They knew how to make things with their hands. They weren't relying on big corporations. They didn't have to go and work for a large corporation only to then go and spend their hard-earned money at another corporation and just basically give it away. Were they helping people because they actually knew each other and wanted to help each other, so that when the harvest was due, people from the village would go onto the fields, they would have a picnic, they would bring drinks, they would go, but together they brought in the harvest, which benefited everybody, so that you could have bread, so that you could have beer, so that you could eat. Did people help one another with milking the dairy and the cheese and the whole process? If somebody hadn't been out of their house for a few days, did the local people go, oh, Mrs. Miggs has not come out at number 32, let's just go and knock on the door and make sure she's okay? Is that a better life? I mean, when you think of the villages of the old days, and I know people say, but Richard, you're just looking through rose-tinted glasses, and was it really as a lovely life as it was? But when you think back, those villages were brought about because of how we used to farm, how we used to have homesteads, the Saxons coming over and having a plot of land, and people in the family would grow their own produce, and the surplus would be sold, and people would trade with one another, and they would help each other. The work that they did was they were working for themselves for their own benefit. And if the sun was shining and they wanted to pause for a few moments and watch the cattle or the pigs, or feel rewarded, or praise one another, or just have a drink together, they could. They didn't have line managers. They didn't have targets to reach. They didn't have somebody shouting down the phone, where is that report you said you would put on my desk first thing Monday morning? They didn't have that. They didn't have dead entities. What they were doing was real. It was wholesome. It was important. It was, of course, about survival, but it meant something. A lot of people are commuting to these jobs. They have no real interest. They don't understand where the money is being made. They're just in this slavish hamster wheel of, I go here, I do this, I answer these phone calls, I tap these demands from other people, I make other people's lives misery, I try to sell something which is an inferior product, whatever it is, and then I come home, and then I'm so tired I just bung on the telly and I watch everybody else having a lovely life. This sort of televisual or virtual reality or whatever it is, then they're not really actually thriving and living. And if we are to build a new world, I believe that's what we've got to reevaluate. Why are we keeping the dead entity corporations up and running and buying all their nonsense and their trinkets and their lies when we could get back to nature, we could get back to subsistent farming, we could get back to creating things to help each other and have a much more wholesome life? For I feel if we're going to push back against digital IDs and CBDCs and net zero nonsense and the myth of global warming and all of these things which are ever more trying to get us into these 15-minute cities, these sort of FEMA concentration camps in which we're trapped and monitored and chipped and working slavishly for a small bunch of people, then we've got to break free. We've got to turn our backs on these corporations, turn our backs on the government and say, this is not how we want to run this country. This is not how we thrive and have a better life. We're not going to listen to your lies and your propaganda. We're actually going to ignore all the mainstream narrative, the narrative that keeps us in fear. And we're going to understand what it is that is actually important, those things that really give us pleasure, those simple things in life which have meaning. Because if we're going to survive all of this, then the nonsense of the dead entity corporations have got to be rejected, and we've got to get back together in a much more wholesome and holistic and honourable type of living. I mean, look at the villages that we have today. They are dead entities themselves. You never see anybody. You walk around a village, people are away or they're working the village isn't thriving as it used to be. And that's what we've got to get back to, an integrated situation in which people are helping one another because they love one another. They're keen to keep that community going. That, to me, is something that is wholesome and worth working for.